Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear at the back? Yes. That's great. Yes. A very warm welcome to the Deputy Lord Lieutenant Colonel Roger Herriot, OBE, and Mrs. Lynn Herriot, and also for Richard Palmer from Royal Marines on my left, and Ailwyn, which is what's on my today. Just a few admin points, ladies and gentlemen, because there's quite a few here in the club today. Fire doors at the other end of the hall, one behind the curtains here, one in the kitchen, and obviously the main door that you came into. So we've got no fire drills planned for today, so please, if anything happens and the alarms go off, get out quick and sit in the jeeps. We've got the Village Hall Committee and also Social Club Committee. It's very important just to thank them, because we wouldn't have the space here today if it wasn't for them giving us these fantastic provisions with the bar open. I'd just like to thank George and Pash for doing their fantastic barman's jobs here today. Thank you very much for that. Darren Tompkins at the Madcap did us the food, so again, once the proceedings are finished, all I would ask when I talk about food is if you could let the family members and the Deputy Lord Lieutenant Colonel Herriot have their food first, and then we can hopefully all merge in afterwards. Kevin Doyle, thankfully, I don't know if Kevin's here. Well, Kevin. Just to thank the Brockerbury Trust for their donation towards the food, and also the Parish Council. Thank you to David, who the Deputy Lord Lieutenant's met, from the Parish Council side of things, very important. I'd also like to thank Doreen, oh yeah, hiding down there, Doreen for arranging the two Willys Jeeps, friends of hers from Cambridge, which is a fantastic little setting up the front, and thank you very much for that. You can clap. We're just getting Ken. I think Ken's just off to get his camera kit out of his car. He covers. Oh, he's here. All right. Nice to see you, Ken. Very important, because obviously next week in the Hunts Post, and also I think whatever else you can get it into, Ken, is that Cambridge Evening News and any other periodical that we can get. That's what you call courting the press, anyway. Right, what's important today? We're gathered here really today to honour Ailwyn, or Blondie, as we all probably locally know him best as, Blondie Stevens, who at 10 minutes past 8 on June the 6th, 1944, was one of the first men to actually touch Juno Beach in Normandy while serving with 4-8 Commando, Royal Marines. As you can see, I'm at parachute regiment, so the Royal Marines and Paras have always been, as Rich and I go back many years, will tell you. But again, these lads did a fantastic job. Parachute regiment jumped in, the Royal Marines went by landing craft, did what they did best, making sand castles on Juno Beach. Ailwyn is a humble man who really didn't want to fuss today, he didn't. But as an ex-serviceman, I knew the significance of his sacrifice on that day, when I convinced him after 50 years to go back to D-Day, and he said, I don't want to go back there. He came to me with his passport application. I did the counter signature when I was in the police force, and we laid it all out. And he said, do you know what? Why do I need a passport? The last time I was in France, they didn't ask me for a bloody passport. You can smile, Ailwyn. It's taken 3 years to get here today. It's been a long slog, because we're at the tail end of the 5,000 medals that were given out to those that deserve them for that action on that particular period of D-Day. The French government has been awarding the Legiond'Honneur to D-Day veterans from many different countries for several years as a way of honouring and thanking those who fought and risked their life to secure France's liberation during the Second World War. On the 70th anniversary of D-Day in June 2014, the French president announced that the distinction would be awarded to all British veterans who fought for the liberation of France during the Second World War. And veterans must have taken part in military operations in France between 1944 and 1945. Since June 2014, more than 5,000 medals have been awarded. The process should have been completed by the end of 2014, so you get some idea where we're at. So how ironic that we stand here nearly 4 years later. The Legiond'Honneur, full name is the National Order of the Legiond'Honneur, Ordre National de Legiond'Honneur, is the highest French order of merit for military and civil merits, established in 1802 by one Napoleon Bonaparte and retained by all the divergent governments and regimes since holding power in France up to the present. It is a real and lasting honour for Ailwyn, and will never be repeated in Pidley, certainly in our lifetime. And I'd now like to call upon the Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Colonel Roger Herrick, to say a few words and make a presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just move that slightly. So I'm smaller than Gil. Can you all hear me okay? Just want to go through, and it's a slightly long spiel, but I think it's worth going through the story of D-Day itself, Operation Overlord. So we will take a little bit of time, and I'll just change that to where I can see that and speak as well, and tell the story of Ailwyn and D-Day. The overall objective of D-Day, Operation Overlord, for those troops landing on Juno Beach, was to form a link between Juno and the adjacent beaches of Sword and Gold, and to cut the Cairn Bio Road, seize Cairn Peak Airport, which was west of Cairn. The detailed objective for 4-8 Commando, which is the commando Ailwyn was in, and also the latest and last commando to be formed, was to land at Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer at HR 8:10 AM on the 6th of June 1944, before swinging east to attack and capture the strong point of Langogne-sur-Mer, while 4-1 Commando, who were to land at Lyon-sur-Mer on Sword Beach and had a similar strong point to capture, would proceed west. After completion of their appointed tasks, the 2 commando units were to meet, and the gap between Juno and Sword Beaches would be closed. 4-1 Commando was the commando that Ailwyn's brother Herbert was in. They met 2 days after the initial landing, and I gather Ailwyn wished his brother a happy birthday. Herbert had sustained a bullet ricochet wound to the head at that point. Juno Beach was the code name given to the 10-kilometre stretch of Normandy invasion coastline on which 4-8 Commando were to land. The beach was divided, as all good military things are, into 2 designated assault sectors by Allied command. Mike between Graham-sur-Mer and Courcelles to the west, and Nan between Courcelles and Saint-Aubin to the east. The landing beach at Saint-Aubin was designated Nan Red. The military gives things names for everything you'll understand. A fortnight before D-Day, 4-8 Commando were stationed at a sealed camp at Swaithling near Southampton and under canvas. At 1700 on the afternoon of the 5th of June 1944, the commandos departed Warsash on the River Hamble. Overnight they crossed the channel, arriving off Juno Beach at Saint-Aubin the following morning. The crossing had been quite rough, I think probably an understatement, very rough, and many of the commandos experienced seasickness. HR was set for 0745, but with strong currents, reefs and submerged German obstacles delaying the landing until approximately 0810. Nothing ever goes quite according to plan. As the Royal Marines neared the coast, naval ships bombarded the shore defences in a deafening barrage of shell fire. Viewing the Normandy coast from their landing craft, the commando's plan was to land on the beach just to the right of the church spire in Saint-Aubin towards Bernier. The tide was rising. On approaching the beach, some landing craft became caught in German sea defences constructed of spiked metal stakes with mines attached, and approximately 30% of the landing craft were damaged or destroyed. Some commanders at this point decided to wade ashore from their stricken landing craft, but weighed down with 100-pound packs, they were tragically swept away and drowned under the weight of their equipment. It was planned that the Canadian 8th Infantry, the North Shore Regiment, would land first, secure the beachhead and be followed ashore by 4/8 Commando. It is true to say in the confusion that Ailwyn Stevens and 4/8 Commando's landing craft touched French soil first. The forces had been briefed there would be 2 exits from the beach, but discovered in reality there was only one. Canadian tanks of the 10th Armoured Regiment, better known as the Fort Garry Horse, formerly a cavalry unit, experienced great difficulty manoeuvring on the soft sand. In the confusion and melee as the tanks advanced up the beach with turret lids down, they even ran over commandos and other troops lying injured on the beach. Wanting to protect the casualties, a senior commando officer who was clearly angered by what he was witnessing pulled the pin from an anti-tank grenade and hurled it at a Canadian tank. Probably the best move he could do at the time. Extreme resistance was encountered from soldiers of the 716 German Infantry Division, who were afforded excellent observation and firing positions from the seafront houses they had commandeered. With little cover from floating tanks which had skirts raised around them, many of which had sunk before coming ashore, 4/8 Commander had to rush the seawall, but the Marines were under fire all the way up the beach. In securing the beachhead, the first wave of Canadian troops and the commandos suffered very high casualties. The battle to advance to the objective was also to prove incredibly fierce. Leaving the beach behind them, the commandos dumped surplus kit in the garden of a house directly off the beach. In close quarter, house-to-house fighting, they moved through the centre of the village, encountering streets blocked with thick meshes of barbed wire. The objective was for 4/8 Commando to move east and attack Legiond'Honneur, while 4/1 Commando, who had landed at Legiond'Honneur on Sword Beach and had a similar strong point to capture, would proceed west. The 2 commando units were to meet after the completion of their respective tasks, and the gap between Juno and Sword Beaches would be closed. If German tanks had exploited that gap, both Juno and Sword Beaches could have been wiped out. Naval ships off the coast were requested by the commanders to cease their support, or their fire support, after one salvo of shells fell among one of the commando sections, killing an officer and 1 Marine and wounding several others. Safe from friendly fire, the commanders were then able to proceed towards Langrune. On the 8th of June, having secured Langrune, 4/8 Commando moved on to Douve-la-Délivrade. 3 days later, on the 11th of June, orders were received for them to proceed to the Pegasus Bridge, which spans the Caen Canal, where they were to assist the Parachute Regiment in efforts to hold that strategic